If two souls are meant to be together, it does not always look the way people imagine. It does not always begin with perfect timing, easy communication, or a clear path forward. Sometimes it begins with confusion, sometimes it begins with fear, sometimes it begins with a feeling so deep that both people recognize it before either of them knows what to do with it. And that is why these connections are often misunderstood. People think what is meant for you should feel simple. They think if two souls belong together, nothing will get in the way. There will be no silence, no distance, no hesitation, no moments of doubt. But the truth is, some of the strongest soul connections do not arrive to make everything easy. They arrive to awaken everything real. They touch the heart, but they also touch the wounds. They bring up longing, fear, hope, vulnerability, and the parts of you that still need healing. They make you feel seen in a way that is beautiful, but also frightening. They make you question whether you are ready for the kind of love that does not stay on the surface. But when two souls are truly meant to meet, one thing always appears: a quiet pull. Not obsession, not desperation, not a need to control the outcome. A deeper pull. The kind that remains even when life gets complicated. The kind that does not disappear just because words are not being spoken. The kind that makes both people feel, somewhere beneath everything, that this connection is not ordinary. You may not be able to explain it. They may not be able to explain it either. But something inside both souls recognizes the bond before the mind can name it. And that quiet recognition is where the story begins. When two souls are meant to be together, distance does not erase the connection. It may change the way it appears. It may quiet the conversations. It may create space, silence, and uncertainty. But it does not fully remove the presence of the other person from the inner world. That is the part that feels different. You can go days, weeks, or even months trying to move forward. You can distract yourself, stay busy, tell yourself that life is moving on. You can convince your mind that the story is finished. But then something happens. A memory returns. A song brings them back. A place reminds you of them. Their name appears. Or out of nowhere, your heart feels the connection again, as if no time has passed. This is not always because you are holding on too tightly. Sometimes it is because the bond itself has not finished speaking. A meant-to-be connection has a strange way of returning to awareness. Even after silence, there is still a thread. Even after separation, there is still a feeling. Even after both people try to act unaffected, something inside them keeps circling back to what was real between them, and often both souls feel it. One may hide it better, one may run from it longer, one may pretend not to care. But when a connection is written deeply enough, distance only reveals how present it still is. It shows that some people are not removed from your heart simply because they are removed from your daily life. So if the connection keeps returning, do not dismiss it too quickly. Some bonds fade when they are tested by time, but some bonds become clearer in absence. And when two souls are meant to be together, life may separate them for a season, but something inside them keeps finding its way back. When two souls are meant to be together, there is often a recognition that does not make sense at first. It is not always loud, it is not always dramatic, but it is there, a quiet feeling of familiarity, as if something inside you already knows this person before your mind has had time to understand why. You may meet them and feel strangely at home, not because you know everything about them, not because they are perfect, not because the connection has already proven itself, but because their presence reaches something deeper than ordinary attraction. It feels like your soul pauses for a moment and says, "I know this." That kind of recognition is hard to explain to anyone else. On the outside, it may look like just another person, just another conversation, just another moment. But inside, something shifts. You feel seen in a way you did not expect. You feel drawn without fully understanding the reason. You feel as if this person has entered a room inside you that most people never even find. And that can be both beautiful and unsettling. Because the mind wants evidence. It wants timelines, labels, certainty, proof. But the soul recognizes energy before logic creates a story. The soul feels what the mind cannot yet explain. That is why a meant-to-be connection can feel familiar, even when it is new, powerful, even when it is quiet, unforgettable, even when nothing obvious has happened. This does not mean every intense feeling is destiny, but when two souls truly recognize each other, the connection has a depth that does not depend on performance. It does not need constant noise to feel real. It simply exists. And somewhere beneath all the questions, both people feel it, the strange knowing that they did not meet by accident. When two souls are meant to be together, life has a strange way of bringing them back into each other's orbit. It may not happen the way they planned. It may not happen when they are ready. It may not even happen when they are asking for it. But somehow, their paths keep finding small openings. A message arrives when the heart was finally becoming quiet. A memory appears at the exact moment they thought they had moved on. A mutual connection mentions their name. A place, a song, a dream, a feeling. Something pulls the connection back into awareness. And suddenly, it feels less like coincidence. Not because every little sign must mean destiny, not because love should be built on fantasy, but because some connections carry a rhythm that ordinary bonds do not have. They return at moments that feel too precise to ignore. They appear in the spaces where the mind had stopped searching, but the soul had not fully released. This is how life sometimes speaks. It does not always force two people together. It does not remove their free will. It does not make the path easy, but it creates reminders. It creates moments of recognition. It creates situations where both people are invited to notice what still remains between them. And when the bond is real, those crossings feel different. They do not feel random. They feel like a quiet echo, a reminder that something unfinished is still moving beneath the surface, a sign that even when both people try to walk separate roads, there is still a deeper thread pulling their stories close enough to be felt. So when paths keep crossing, pay attention. Sometimes life repeats a connection not to confuse you, but to reveal what your heart already knows. When two souls are meant to be together, the bond does not disappear just because fear enters the room. It may become harder to understand. It may become hidden beneath silence, pride, hesitation, or distance. But the connection itself does not vanish simply because one or both people are afraid. This is where many soul connections are tested, because deep recognition can be overwhelming. It can make a person feel exposed. It can bring up old wounds, old patterns, old fears of abandonment, rejection, or losing control. One person may lean in while the other pulls away. One may want clarity while the other needs space. One may feel ready while the other is still fighting parts of themselves they do not know how to name. And yet, beneath all of that, something remains. Even in confusion, there is still a pull. Even in silence, there is still emotional weight. Even when both people try to convince themselves it would be easier to forget, the connection keeps returning to the heart in quiet ways. That is what makes it different. A shallow connection breaks when it becomes inconvenient. It fades when attention shifts. It disappears when things become complicated. But a soul bond has roots beneath the surface. It survives the moments when the mind says, "Let go," but the heart still feels that something important has not been fully understood. This does not mean fear should control the relationship forever. It does not mean distance should be romanticized. But it does mean that confusion is not always the end of a connection. Sometimes confusion is the place where two souls are being asked to grow enough to hold what they feel without running from it. And if the bond is meant, fear may delay it, but it will not erase what the soul already knows. When two souls are meant to be together, they do not only feel something, they awaken something. Their connection does not stay on the surface. It reaches deeper than attraction, deeper than excitement, deeper than the comfort of being wanted. It touches the parts of both people that are ready to grow, and that growth does not always feel gentle. One person may awaken courage in the other. One may reveal wounds the other has been avoiding. One may make the other realize how guarded they have become, how much they fear closeness, how often they run from the very love they secretly want. Sometimes a soul connection feels beautiful because it brings warmth. Sometimes it feels intense because it brings truth. That is why these connections can feel impossible to ignore. They do not force change with pressure. They do not demand transformation through control. They simply become a mirror that shows you where you are open, where you are afraid, where you still need healing, and where you are capable of loving more honestly than before. And when someone changes you in that way, you know the connection is not ordinary. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to question old patterns. You begin to understand why certain things hurt you, why certain silences affect you, why this person reached a place inside you that others never touched. This is the quiet power of a meant-to-be bond. It does not just make you want the other person. It makes you meet yourself. It brings you closer to the truth of who you are, what you need, and what your heart is finally ready to stop running from. When two souls are meant to be together, even silence has a feeling. It is not the kind of silence that erases everything. It is not the kind that makes the connection feel dead, finished, or meaningless. It is the kind of silence that still carries weight. Nothing is being said, but something is still there. You may not hear from them. They may not hear from you. Days may pass with no message, no explanation, no visible movement, but somewhere beneath the surface, the connection remains present. It lingers in the spaces between thoughts. It appears in moments when neither person is trying to think about it. It moves quietly through the heart, reminding both souls that what they felt has not fully disappeared. This is why the silence feels different. With some people, silence brings relief. It closes the door. It makes everything easier to forget. But with a soul connection, silence can feel full of unfinished words, full of emotions that were never admitted, full of truths both people are still learning how to face. One person may stay quiet because they are afraid. The other may stay quiet because they are protecting their peace. But even when neither one speaks, the bond does not become empty. It waits. It breathes. It presses softly against the places inside them that still remember. And that is not easy, because silence can make the mind doubt what the soul still feels. The mind says, if it mattered, they would speak. But the soul knows that some connections go quiet, not because they are gone, but because both people are still becoming ready for the honesty the connection requires. So do not judge every silence as an ending. Sometimes silence is not the absence of love. Sometimes it is the space where love is being tested, hidden, protected, or quietly understood. When two souls are meant to be together, absence does not feel ordinary. It is not simply missing someone because you were used to their attention. It is not just loneliness. It is not the empty space that appears when a routine changes. It is deeper than that. It feels as if something inside you becomes quieter. Their absence reaches places that casual connections never touched. You may continue with life. You may smile, work, talk to other people, and do everything you are supposed to do. But somewhere beneath the surface, there is a space that only their presence knew how to fill. And they may feel it too. Maybe they hide it. Maybe they distract themselves. Maybe they tell themselves they are fine. But when two souls are truly connected, absence has a way of revealing the bond. It shows up in the moments when everything looks normal, yet something feels missing. It appears in the quiet of the day, in the pause before sleep, in the sudden memory that arrives without warning. Because some people are not just missed. They are felt. Their energy stays in the heart. Their voice remains in the mind. Their presence becomes part of the emotional atmosphere inside you. And when they are gone, the world may still move, but something in your inner world feels incomplete. This does not mean you cannot live without them. It does not mean your life stops. It means their presence mattered in a way your soul cannot easily replace. That is the difference. Ordinary absence fades with distraction. Soul absence returns in stillness. Ordinary longing weakens with time. Soul recognition often becomes clearer when the noise disappears. So when two souls feel each other's absence this deeply, it is not always a sign of weakness. Sometimes it is the soul remembering what the heart is still trying to understand. If two souls are meant to be together, one thing always appears, an inner pull that neither person can completely explain or erase. It may not always be loud, it may not always come with clear signs, perfect timing or immediate action, but it remains, quietly, deeply, persistently. It is the feeling that something is not finished. Even when the mind creates reasons to let go, the soul still feels the thread. Even when life moves in different directions, something inside keeps turning back toward the connection, not in a desperate way, not in a way that demands or controls, but in a way that feels honest, steady, and impossible to fully deny. This pull is different from attachment. Attachment panics when it cannot control the outcome. Attachment chases, fears, clings, and tries to force proof. But a soul pull is quieter. It does not always push you to act immediately. It simply stays present. It reminds you that this person touched something deeper than desire, deeper than habit, deeper than temporary emotion, and both souls feel it in their own way. One may feel it as longing, the other may feel it as restlessness, one may feel it as peace, the other may feel it as fear, one may understand it sooner, while the other runs from it until life makes the truth impossible to ignore. But the pull remains. It appears in the moments they try to forget. It appears in the silence they thought would end everything. It appears when they meet other people and still feel that something is missing. It appears when the heart recognizes what the mind keeps trying to explain away. If two souls are meant to be together, the connection does not have to shout. It only has to keep returning. If two souls are meant to be together, the connection does not need to be forced. You do not have to chase it until you lose yourself. You do not have to beg life to prove it. You do not have to hold someone so tightly that love turns into fear. What is truly meant for the soul has a way of returning to truth when both people are ready to face it. But it also does not disappear easily. It may pause. It may stretch across distance. It may become quiet for a season. It may pass through confusion, fear, pride, timing and silence. But somewhere beneath all of that, the pull remains. Not because either person is trapped, not because they cannot live without each other, but because something real was recognized, and the soul does not forget what it has deeply known. This is the final truth. A meant-to-be connection is not always proven by constant closeness. Sometimes it is proven by what remains when closeness is gone. It is proven by the way the bond survives silence without becoming empty. It is proven by the way both people keep feeling the presence of something unfinished, even when life gives them every reason to move on. But remember this, destiny still requires courage. A soul connection can exist, but it cannot become love without honesty. It cannot become a relationship without effort. It cannot become something safe without two people choosing to meet each other with openness, maturity, and truth. So do not force it, but do not deny it either. If two souls are truly meant to be together, the one thing that always appears is the quiet pull that keeps bringing them back to what the heart already knows.